Product ideation, development, branding, and going to market is what this topic today is all about. And listening today, and this has been, just, a lot. There's been a lot of in these discussions here today, but I kind of personally feel that this particular topic, it takes a different DNA. We talk a lot about businesses, people starting different businesses, copycatting things. I can do it better than them. But now we're talking about an idea, okay? And possibly even building a widget and going, to me, this is always fascinating. I've been an entrepreneur, but I haven't gone that route. But I kind of feel like, I think today there's a lot to learn in these discussions. And what I'd like to do is first open it up. Kimberly, if we could put the first slide up, if you don't mind. And we're going to start with the ideation, the idea. You saw a problem. I look out the window today. If someone can solve the traffic problem now in Clemson in these peak hours, you're going to make a lot of money. Maybe you build a bypass around the university. That's more like what I call it VDOT, but that's transportation issues. But so what I'd like to do today is start this question off. But forgive me, before we start that, I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm going to start with Dave, working at Damon, Jayson, Dustin. These guys are all here and have great backgrounds to speak about this today. So let's start with just a quick bio, a little information about each of you. Dave, sure. Please.
My name is Dave Whorton. I'm a 1991 graduate of Clemson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer and founder of SportsBiz. SportsBiz is an AI-powered sponsorship technology platform. We believe we're building the best one in the world. We are here to help brands understand how to match, maximize, and multiply their sponsorship investments. And we do it all through AI. I put Clemson at the heart of my ability to do this. I learned about sports as a business when I was in school here, and really look forward to talking to you about how we brought our product to life.
Thank you. Damon?
My name is Damon Bungard. I graduated Clemson in 2000. My career was largely in the outdoor industry, but it started here at Clemson. As a junior, I got my first sponsorship as a professional kayaker, and that led to creating products in the kayak industry, firearms industry, fishing industry, managing both product development from idea to market launch, and then also managing marketing teams and telling a story. As you commented there, I believe all good product really has story in its DNA in that idea from the beginning. Customers we live in a world of passionate pursuits. We're not selling Triscuit crackers in the grocery store. We're selling things that people want to spend their time with and engage with and do it and then value that time. So that was always my kind of career, was coming up with the next great idea and making it real.
Great. Thank you, Damon. Jayson?
Hey, Jayson Tompkins, graduated in 2008. In 2019, I founded a company called Print Your Cause. We are trying to help schools and nonprofits fundraise via print on demand. COVID hit, the company went through the roof. We were right place, right time, became the fastest growing company in South Carolina. We were building a lot of software for ourselves to try to solve our own problems. We realized the software we built was actually more valuable than even the company we built it for. So we started another company in 2023 called Fulfill Engine, and a year ago we were acquired. So now part of Stahl's Fulfill Engine, I get to serve as the Chief Digital Officer of that company.
Great. Thank you. Dustin?
Hey everyone, Dustin Tupper, graduated 2011. As you saw with our commercial from my co-founder, Matt Moore, I'm COO. We are very much in that product ideation and creation and development of a fully electric boat, 23-foot catamaran, 48 volts semi-foiling. So combined a lot of existing ideas with some new ideas to create a truly new product and solve a problem that's out there. So excited to talk about this. Thanks for having us.
Dustin, thank you. And you're Matt, we're gracious enough to have my wife and my daughter and us out yesterday. It was awesome. So if you get a chance to go out on the lake, talk to Damon, talk to Dustin and Matt, if you don't mind. All right, so let's get into this today. First things first, Damon, since this is Damon's slide, him and I have known each other now for 2 years. I kind of like this slide because it kind of takes you through the process. So what I thought I'd like to do, first of all, is maybe turn it over to you just to talk about this slide, which is right behind us, by the way. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it talks, I'll let Damon, why don't we kick it off with you?
Appreciate that. So this slide, I was kind of, engineering background with a creative life. I came up with this slide to kind of present with the creative teams that I've worked with, because ultimately good products and good companies are a result of good process. And so, but it's very hard to sometimes break down, like, what are the steps of how do I go from point A all the way to point Z of having an idea and then making money on it. And so I came up with the idea process just because sometimes it's fun to play with acronyms, but it fit. And so the idea process is ultimately the first phase is that ideation phase, and that's the creation, the theoreticals. It's where you just play with ideas and you experiment. And you expect to fail, and it's where you want to really be creative and think outside the box, so to speak, which is overused. But that's the whole point of that phase. And then once you kind of get through that ideation phase, you move into the actual development phase. Now I got a bit of a clearer vision. A lot of companies and a lot of product teams fail because the vision of what they're trying to achieve moves or isn't clear. If I'm hunting something and I know what a deer looks like or whatever I'm hunting, and I know what mountain it's standing on and I know how far away it is, it's pretty easy to hit the target. If I'm hunting a species, I don't know what it looks like, and it constantly moves from this mountain to that mountain to the sky. Same thing happens with R&D. You can't achieve your target. Same thing happens with R&D teams often. They can get stuck in this design spiral of scope change, you can call it, or scope creep. Architects love that when they design a house and somebody said, no, I wanted this room over there. Oh, that's great. Like, it's going to cost a lot of money. So that development phase is where really the efficiencies and having a defined target that you set in the ideation phase ultimately dictates success or not. And then once you get through that development phase, you've defined your target. Now I've proven the concept is real. You move into that execution phase, and that's when your marketing story takes over, your logistics, your supply chain, your operations, your manufacturing, all that starts taking place. And then that's the execution phase. And then you hit the achieve. If you do all the first three right, IDA, you'll achieve success. You've figured out your margins, you've figured out your distribution plan, you've made the product, you've found the audience, you've delivered it to the audience, and they're happy that they got it. This is kind of that breakdown of, yes, it's very simplified, but it really is the process of taking that idea from a concept to something real.
Good. Thank you, Damon. Jayson, I'm going to ask you this question then. So now you're in the development side, okay, of it. So you got product development that can go on and go on and go on. And, you got salespeople waiting to want to sell the product, okay? And is it going to work? Is it ready for is it ready for the, to be sold? Can you kind of talk about that for a moment from a product development side?
Well, yeah, I can tell from our experience, for one, I didn't have a fancy acronym to go off of when we were starting the business. And we really had no clue what we were doing. Sometimes I still feel like that. At the end of the day, what we did all the way through the growth of Printer Cause and into Fulfill Engine is we were solving problems, right? We weren't going out to build a product. We were focused on problems. We were focused on our client base. Right? So it was less of like, hey, we think this is going to be a great idea for our user. We think this is a great idea for the industry, and more so listening to the feedback we were getting, taking that feedback, ideating on it, developing it, and then going to market with it. But we were solving problems first before we were trying to go out and build a solution or a company. And that's kind of how it formed naturally. And because we went that route, we were able to bootstrap everything. And these are different paths. You could have an idea and go out and get funding for it. There are all sorts of great different paths you can take. But our journey was kind of building the plane while we were flying it along the way. And it turned out to be a pretty cool plane we built.
Thank you. Dustin, I'm going to have you take a shot at that. I want to get you from actually seeing and experience the product yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. We are probably right in the middle of that, approaching the execution stage, but the development stage is still a little bit ongoing. But maybe to use Damon's analogy of the hunting, even during that execution stage, you have to continuously look back and recenter on what the problem you are solving, so you don't start to stray from that original focus, because that will prevent you from achieving that success. As you get more opportunities, in a good way, they lend themselves, they come about as you're developing and executing, but they can also distract you from achieving that goal. So it is a little bit of a cyclical process as you do the whole thing. You want to circle back to the beginning. Why did we start this? what was the problem we're solving? Are we still solving it? Has it changed? And that might take a tweak to the development or design and then allow you to execute and achieve.
Thank you. Dave, so now we've heard some guys from the product development side. How's AI going to change all this? This is going to cut the cycle, cut things down. Information is going to flow quicker. Talk about and possibly even eliminate, maybe not so steps, might be eliminating people. So can we talk about that for a moment?
You know, we are being an artificial intelligence driven company. One of the things that's fascinating is you get people nervous about whether your product is going to replace people. Your product's going to deliver information that is it accurate if it was done artificially. And what we started doing is really looking at one of the things that we heard in brands. We're really working with brands like big brands like Coca-Cola, Prudential. And one of the things that we've heard them say is that they have to bring AI technology into their marketing function. So sports marketing falls there. If you think about it, all these companies are using AI as a predictive measure for business success outside of marketing, but marketing is not doing it. So the first thing that we did was really a differentiator for us is we created an AI receipt. So anyone who's working with us, any client gets a receipt understanding the AI and being able to go into a room and educate their colleagues on how AI is helping. Well, one of the things that I will tell you that has been fascinating, we work with Armed Forces Insurance. So if you think about them, they are one of the bigger insurance companies out there, certainly serve our military community and certainly a great win. One of the things they use artificial intelligence for is they wanted to create efficiency. So they didn't reduce their team, but they increased their full-time equivalency, their FTE count, by the efficiencies. So they went from having 7 people working on marketing at this company to having the equivalent of 10 people working on this company through AI. And we are trying to be a part of showing that. So while AI is going to be something that is going to require some recalibration of roles, we are trying to set up AI so that it's going to empower people to have different discussions, learn more about AI, and really grow their work. But AI is not something to be feared. It is inevitable. And it is something that we have to make sure that people feel very comfortable with and understand it. And we're working hard to do that.
Great. Thank you. So now we're moving through this slide here, thinking to myself, okay, we've got a product. We've now, we've developed it. We're, not quite ready. We're still putting it, I'm going to get into funding in a moment here, but I want to, branding. Okay. You're going to choose a name. Where are you going to find yourself in the ecosystem? What name is going to attract these customers? And that's because name game is a big deal. We all go through it. We have fun with it. We see logos, hundreds of logos and names, and you don't like them, you trash them. So I'm going to start with you first. How did you come up with your name?
Our idea man, Matt, loves that game of let's make a name, make a logo, try it out, recycle it, trash it, change it. But it is key. I'm an engineer at heart, so kind of unfortunate for me. I wish you just have a good product and everybody would buy it. You don't have to market it and brand it, but that is a huge part of any business. And you just want to keep that, like your product, true to yourself. If you're a simple, straightforward product, you want to exemplify that in your logo and your branding, so people know what you are just by looking at that logo or catchphrase or even the name.
Damon, you want to touch on that for a moment?
Brand is everything. I mean, people ultimately buy, all things equal, people will buy based on brand. And you look at the history of branding, starting with the pharaohs and, their symbols, and then, ultimately branding, cattle. Literally branding cows. How you can tell the wealthy cattle ranchers by how many of their cows had their logo burned on them, right? That's because that's the impression that people give. So brand is emotion. And ultimately, people buy your product or respond or become a brand fan, a company fan, based on emotional appeal, how you connect with them, do your words, do your images connect with that human. That's the why. So now they're engaged. And then the product, a good product, is the what. So people, again, in marketing, marketing's fundamental role is awareness and desire, because the first rule of sales is nobody buys what they don't know they can buy. The second rule of sales is nobody buys what they don't want. So that wanting is the brand side. Marketing gets your message out there, and then that want side, that's your brand. So coming up with a name and logo, it's fun. I enjoy it. It's frustrating. You think you got this great brand name or a great product name, And then you find out there's already one there and now you can't trademark it. Now I'm afraid I got to change it. Or, you know, you find out you get to an end of a kayak design and you got this great cool logo with an octopus. And then you find out, oh, the designer didn't make a flat enough spot, so I can't put it on the mold. Now we got to change the name to something small. So, you know, it's very fundamental challenges you run into, but naming is fun. Especially when you know your audience and you can engage in something. You know, there's certainly products have their own branding. You know, you think of the Silverado. If somebody says Silverado, people think of Chevy trucks. I don't think Chevy. That product has earned its own brand category, its own brand recognition. Then you have the branding of the company itself and that image. So it's again, I'm an engineer, but I love the creative process of branding and telling that story and figuring out how to appeal to people emotionally. So when they see your symbol, they hear your name, they light up. They're excited.
Yeah, so Jayson, just maybe you can expand on that in the sense that now you've built a brand here. Now you got to keep putting that, you know, flag in the ground every day, and it's developing so what I want to talk about for a moment is now take the brand to the next level, developing the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to share a story too about how horrible of branding and marketing I was. And when you're starting off building a business, you're wearing like 30 different hats. You know, you're chief sales officer, your chief product officer, your chief marketing officer. So when we started Print Your Cause, it wasn't Print Your Cause. I thought I had a really awesome name. And you said it, start simple, don't overthink it. I called the company Philanthroprint, okay? And I went to my friends and family, and they're like, oh, that's a great name. And I'm like, yeah, philanthropy, printing, this is great. And then I tried to open a bank account, and I'm on the phone with Wells Fargo, and they're like, I had to spell it 16 times. I was like, maybe this is not a good business name. Just incredibly complicated. It turns out a lot of people don't even know what the word philanthropy means. So terrible business name. And by the way, if we name our company that, now we're forever limited to only doing philanthropy, right? And so when we were going through that branding exercise, because we had no clue what we were doing, we didn't know how to develop it. The logo was terrible. All of it was awful. But we were able to adjust. And then, okay, Print Your Cause is a better kind of brand. All right. Well, then the logo that we came up with, you know, we didn't have ChatGPT yet to just type in and, you know, give us a bunch of different logos to try out. So I will say AI resources are an awesome way to continue to have an agent. You know, agentic AI is incredible now to be able to build your own marketing expert. And, you know, I'm part of a big organization. We have great marketing experts, but I can train a model to say, look in the industry, look at what my company's doing, and start giving us new ideas and keeping our brand fresh. Is there something we're missing? Is there something we're not doing? And then planning out our branding schedule the way we do that. It's not replacing the people on our marketing team. It's just enhancing them and just allowing us to be more agile in the way we brand and the way we market. And this is coming from someone who is like got the marketing talent of a toddler. So there are just so many resources out there. And I think for entrepreneurs starting off, you have tools that are free to go out there and use that we didn't have, you know, even 3 years ago. And struggling to do that when you're starting a business, it can be overwhelming. It like stifles you and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to come up with the perfect name and the perfect logo. It's like, be agile and be simple and quick.
Thank you. And I'll just share with you, I mean, thinking through the branding processes, you know, you have a good brand when you find a notice several months later, you're getting sued for the infringement of somebody else's set. That's happened to me a number of times, but, you know, I never could figure out, I've got restaurant chains in the US that were running a restaurant, and I got Joey Tomatoes out of Canada, which is a grocery store, saying I'm infringing on their name, and, you know, go figure. But we won. But you usually have to fight these situations if you stand up for it, because it's hard to, for example, it's hard to coin local tacos and tequila. There's a lot of tacos and tequilas out there. So I'm just saying that you'll find in life that if you like something, you're going to probably have to fight for it. Okay. And last thing I'll say on that is that the best marketing thing I'd ever did in my career was when the NFL sued me for a name called the Baltimore Colts. It changed my life. So that's how important a brand is. The NFL didn't want me using that brand, but we were able to use it for about 6 months. It gave us tremendous publicity. So there you go. You can build a business off that. So with that being said, I want to move into the launching of the product. So now we're at a point where got it all figured out. We're going to launch this product. And I want to know the steps that I'm going to start with you, Dave, the steps on launching that company, that product. You got all the P's and Q's in order right now. What are the first steps?
Sure. I'm going to throw in one thing on our name, if you don't mind, too, is when you think about sports biz, that sounds very generic. And I will tell you that I had as many calls as I had about investing and as many calls I had with potential clients, they had opinions about our name. But I'm going to tell you why we selected it. As the chief marketing officer, I feel pretty proud of this. If you go onto LinkedIn and you engage in the business of sport, everything is hashtag sports biz. Everything is that. So if you're talking about a new hire, you're talking about a new client, it is hashtag sports biz. We inserted ourselves into conversation after conversation that we should have never been in. And people came to us and we got some leads by accident and we took full advantage. Some of those accidents have turned into clients. So it's pretty fun. We're a little smarter than we look sometimes, but we actually used a name that made sense. But when you think about going to market and you think about that actual launch, Jim, I really appreciate that. What's important to think about, and I put this in some C's category. One is you've got to have credibility. When we launched the product, what we deliver, we made a decision to have an in-house data science team. So what we're doing is making sure that the client delivery is flawless every single time. You don't get a second chance to make that first impression. A little trite and oversaid, but it's very true. Then I go into create news. So when you get a client, you got to go and celebrate that and tell people, and you got to make sure that the industry knows about it. I also created news by who our board was. We took an NBA player, put him on our board, and after he vetted us pretty hard, and that became news. We hired someone who was a 16-year veteran of sports marketing at MasterCard, created news. So that's really important. The next thing is close. Close. You have to be thinking about closing. If it's a loss leader, it's a loss leader. But it is a story you can tell. You talked about a story. Story is so important. And then I think that last C is really celebrate. Anything that you do in the company that's win, if it's on the product side and it is making sure that you get a compliment, you got to celebrate that with your team. You get a deal closed, you got to celebrate that. So it's really about that internal culture as well, but it's really about those C's that we saw when we first started and put our product out there. Those were most important to us to making a difference.
Dave, good stuff. I like that point also about the boards, how important it is to have a board that can help you sell and get out of the blocks there. Dustin, you want to talk about that for a moment?
About the launch, yeah, you said you're going to launch because you have it all figured out. I'd say you definitely mostly have it figured out. That's why you're launching, but still have to be nimble and refocus back on that problem you're solving. But that launch process is what we're in the midst of, and like Matt said, we're relatively early on in that entrepreneurial stage, but that's where you are starting to hopefully see that success achieve in the idea. So celebrating those wins is big every day, the small ones, especially the big ones, but the small ones too, to keep you going. So I think John said it when they were talking about you might have the best day and worst day in the same day. So you got to celebrate it when you get it. And just keep going. That goes back to the entrepreneurial spirit of believing in what you have, the conviction to keep you going through that roller coaster. And you're launching because you're as ready as you're going to be. You need to just do it. Sometimes failure is failure. Fail fast is definitely true. But just go get it and celebrate the wins for sure.
Great. Thank you. So, what we've discussed here right now is this, this is your startup. This is your typical startup process. And I think, you can't start anything. And I know the group for us was talking a lot about how to fund and funding, but part of this process is a runway. And in business, I've learned over the years that whatever it's going to take probably twice as much. And it's probably going to take twice as much time. So I think we have a lot of good data and a lot of good information over the years. We talked about how many companies fail, but what I've always seen, the ones that make it had enough capital. One thing, capital can fix the problems. And I thought we could talk about that for a minute, Jayson. Just talk about when you get this whole thing together, and we're fast forwarding this thing. There's a lot of steps that we didn't touch on, but these are the kind of the nucleus of what you had to, start, idea, take it to product development, launch it. Let's talk a moment about a runway and how to get to the finish line so you can start making money.
Yeah, when we were going through our growth, Venture Cause, we were very profitable, and we were very lucky to have that because no one, myself and my co-founders, when we were first starting, knew anything about running a business. We didn't know the runway we needed to have, and when we were having that success, the thing that helped us significantly was to go get a mentor and be part of a peer group. So I joined a group called Entrepreneur Organization, global organization. There's a chapter in Charleston, there's a chapter in Atlanta and Charlotte. But I was surrounding myself with people who could help me because we ended up, COVID hit and we're having all this crazy success. And then we go and we start a software company and all of a sudden I can't sleep because I'm wondering how on earth am I going to get my runway that was a year out is now 2 months out. What am I going to do? Who are the resources? Who can I go talk to? So having an organization like this, the Launchpad, where you can go talk to entrepreneurs who have been through this is immensely helpful. Just surrounding yourself with mentors and other people who have been through the trenches. Capital does make a huge difference. And when we were at a point, we weren't looking to sell Fulfill Engine. We, in fact, were just starting to get our kind of resume ready to go out and start dipping our toes into what it would look like to get investment. And when we were acquired, it was like the greatest burden lifted off of me because here I am supporting 20 different families and lives. And this is something I think every entrepreneur will go through. When you start building your team is like, these people rely on you. Like, these are people you care about. And I was thinking so much about how do I go get money. I wasn't thinking about how can I make our product be better or how can I meet the needs of, our clients and our partners. And so no doubt about it, capital can solve a lot of things. It doesn't solve everything by any means, right? Money doesn't solve everything unless I guess you're in business. But my goodness, like when that happened, now I can focus on what I do best. And certainly running a business was not what I do best. It's going out and making relationships and figuring out how we can serve the needs of our partners.
Thank you. Damon, you want to add to that a little bit here?
So much of product launch and that runway, it goes back to your planning process and understanding your distribution and your sales model, especially in sports. Are you going to be a DTC brand? Am I going to sell through distribution? Am I going to sell through specialty brick and mortar sporting goods stores? All those come with different lead times, different supply chains, different margins. So, you've seen companies fail. Well, they'll launch and they have a price point and they're doing well selling direct to consumer. Now I want to go to distribution. Well, guess what? I don't have the margin now to bring in a distributor. So I either got to really jack up my retail prices and that's going to hurt the consumer, or I'm not going to be able to play in that space. So thinking that all out from the get-go before you even come to the market is really important. Also understanding your supply chain and logistics. You'll find a lot of companies come out, they'll make say 1,000 of whatever they intend to sell with it to start with. And maybe it does better than they thought. Now suddenly I'm sold out, but I got 6 months lead before I can even make any more. Now it's back to that brand impression. I'm disappointing the brand that I invested in. Those consumers that want to buy are now sad and they have a bad brand impression of you. So a lot of companies then start stumbling, trying to scramble to get that back. Yes, capital can come into that, but you need to kind of have some foresight to say, if this does go faster than I want, am I nimble enough to respond to and keep that product getting to the consumer? Because if there's a break, not only are you disappointing the consumer, you're giving your competition a way in. You're turning the ball over. You're letting them now come in. All right, how can I now engage that consumer that wants that product? You're giving them an in. And you see it even a few years into a company. I was talking with a founder and they were struggling and and I was like, let me guess, you're 4 or 5 years into your business. When you launched, everything was green, wide open space, clean slate. You launched a new product, new sales, new category, new sales, new category. Now you're 3 or 4 years in and you're like, wait, you're battling product obsolescence issues. Now you got competitors coming in trying to steal some of your market space. And you're battling all these new fronts. He's like, how'd you know that? I'm like, because everybody goes through that. Every company sees that when you're launching product in this space. Like, it's a race. Once you enter that game, be ready to play because it's coming.
That's good stuff. So, all right. So now we've launched this product. We're out there running around. Now we're going to sales. And one thing I've learned, my daughter just went through it with a company, was that you've got people interested. Now this thing's actually working. Now there's something called distribution. All of a sudden, can I make enough the supply and demand curve? So Dave, can we talk about that? How are you going to manage? Now you've actually succeeded. You got things happening, and now distribution. I mean, let's talk about that for a moment, and we're going to get some questions.
Yeah, and we're a technology platform. We are a SaaS platform, so it's a lot of plug and play, but we have some project work that we're able to do. So what's fascinating for me is we start looking at clients, we start looking at the depth, and our as an early stage startup, we're over delivering every single time. We're not giving them just what they wanted. If they buy one product, we're giving them two, because we want that word of mouth, and we want that story. So for us, it is really having to constantly look at, who are our data scientists? Do we have enough? Who are our tech team? Who are our UX UI team? We're having to make sure that we've got the right amount of people to serve this well. And look, we are also telling the story to these clients. We're having clients come back, and if you know anything about sports marketing, everyone's got a different way of looking at it. And so while you're a commodity, when you're a platform, you got to make people feel like they're getting something unique when they're getting something that's very standardized. And so we're working really hard to do that as well. But what was the biggest challenge for us was the internal staffing, the internal time, and understanding how to apply our resources correctly to what was going to match what the client need was.
Anybody else want to comment on that before we go into questions here? All right, well, great. Well, first of all, I appreciate it, gentlemen. This is having four people up here. We've got a lot of information coming through the pipeline. All right, so do we have some questions for this panel here today?
This question is for you three. He still reads the newspaper, so this is about AI. Have you found, this is a very specific question, in either IDEA, have you found two or three of the best AIs that, it's a pretty broad but specific question, that have helped you along the way?
Go ahead.
I'd say what I have personally engaged with most with using AI right now is in that the eye phase. I'm a visual person. I like seeing a lot of things with my eyes, and you can just crank through concepts with AI so fast, whether it's logo design, brand names, like you were saying, like that speed now. Yes, you can have great teams, but now if you learn to give it the right inputs, it can be extremely fast and powerful for generating and helping through that idea process, identifying weaknesses, it may take you on new tangents, which is part of that process. But that's where I found it to be a real strength so far. Obviously, again, I do work in real estate and I work in product development, and we're here in a sports thing. I'm not scared of AI. I think we got to find the right way to use it. But ultimately, AI is never going to reel in a fish. It's never going to catch a football. It's never going to create land. So there's always going to be these opportunities. So it's how do we use it best in our business to help us be better businessmen? Is certainly, I think, the strength where we live in this world. I hope I don't see a robot throw a baseball one day, but maybe it will happen. But we're a long way from that. Not worried about it.
I'm actually dealing with a different issue altogether. So I am all in on AI. I have been since day one. I love it. I'm a part of a very, very large organization. It's a 93-year-old company. And there are people who have been working at this company for 20, 30, in some cases 40 years, okay? The company as a whole is very manufacturing focused, and here they acquire this software company. So the challenge I'm going through with right now is more on a cultural level of not being scared of AI and being able to embrace. And yeah, you got to have the right securities in place, and goes without saying. But I've got a lot of people in our organization, including leadership. And if they were here right now, I'd say the same thing. So I'm not just talking shit behind their backs. But I have that challenge of trying to get this organization to adopt this technology that's going to change the way we do business across the whole organization. And it's certainly a challenge. I had one of my senior leadership team say, Jayson, I heard prompt engineering is really important now. You were mentioning that. Can you get me a book on prompt engineering? I'm like, a book on prompt engineering? By the time it delivers to you, the prompt engineering's new. Like, you need to prompt engineer your prompt engineering, and their heads explode. So it's a tough thing in my organization right now.
Well, great. I think we're right on time. So I appreciate it. It has been, I tell you, today we've covered, I think we've covered all aspects of when it comes to a product being launched, taking it to market, how to fund it, good question to ask for the entrepreneurs out there. Make sure that when it's always great to be an intern, but when you get ready to get paid, make sure that company's funded. I think that's an important step in that process. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.